President Trump in a new interview, not even acknowledging his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. In an interview with Hill TV saying, "I don't have an Attorney General. It's very sad." What does this mean for Jeff Sessions? Joining me now, Chuck Rosenberg, a former U.S. attorney, a former senior FBI official and MSNBC contributor, and Glenn Kirshner, a former federal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia and an MSNBC legal analyst. Welcome both. So imagine you're Jeff Sessions, you're the Attorney General, Chuck, and the president is denying your existence.
It may not be a bad thing.
But it doesn't mean he's under the radar, because it might mean, as we'll see later, as Hillary Clinton was predicting last night on Rachel Maddow, she's predicting that after the midterms, depending on the outcome of the midterms, there's going to be a wholesale firing.
You know, it's somewhat ironic, Andrea, because the one person who has the authority to remove Jeff Sessions from his job is the guy who keeps complaining about what a lousy job Jeff Sessions is doing. If the president is that upset, if he's that concerned, there's a solution. Now, I'm not advocating for it. I think it's a disgrace that he's denigrating his Attorney General in public. I don't think it does anything for the men and women of the Department of Justice to have that happen and have it happen so publicly. But if the president is that upset, he can resolve this.
And of course, that has all sorts of implications for Robert Mueller and Rod Rosenstein and the like. Glenn Kirshner, and as we sit here, the president is in New Bern, North Carolina. He's meeting residents, people who've been victimized by the flood. So he's doing something that is, you know, quintessentially presidential today. But at the same time, earlier today, he was asked about Jeff Sessions by Kristen Welker on the South Lawn as he was leaving the White House. This is what he had to say.
Disappointed in the Attorney General for numerous reasons, but we have an Attorney General. I'm disappointed in the Attorney General for many reasons, and you understand.
Are you going to fire him? Are you going to fire Jeff Sessions?
We are looking at lots of different things.
We're looking at lots of different things when, in response to Kristen saying, "Are you going to fire Jeff Sessions?" That's not very reassuring, obviously.
Yeah, Andrea, I agree with Chuck. It's almost silly that the person who can fire Jeff Sessions does nothing but incessantly complain about Jeff Sessions. But I think there's another downside for the president, and that is everything he says about Jeff Sessions not being my Attorney General, not protecting me, not shutting down the investigation is going to be of keen interest to the Mueller investigation, because it's informing the investigation about the president's motive and intent with every act he takes, every statement he makes, and every tweet he issues. So, you know, he is doing a lot of harm by continuing to ring this same bell.
And I want to ask you about what the president says to both of you about the FBI. He keeps saying the FBI doesn't do that, doesn't want to do that in terms of Kavanaugh, reopening the investigation. They did it even with Clarence Thomas, reopened the investigation and questioned a whole lot of new witnesses. A lot of people say they didn't go far enough and that the Judiciary Committee in particular dropped the ball then. But what about the relative roles of the FBI doing a background check, a civilian background check?
Right. It's actually pretty clear. There's a protocol here. There's a memorandum of understanding that delineates the responsibilities of the FBI and the White House when the FBI does a background investigation. It's really pretty simple. The FBI turns over to the White House folks the complete folder, the dossier, whatever you want to call it, on the person they investigated. If the White House folks want more done, they simply go back and ask the FBI to do it. This is precisely what the FBI does. The president is wrong, he is misstating it, or he doesn't understand it, but he's wrong. If he wants the FBI to further investigate this, all he needs to do is ask.
So if we're in this sort of catch-22, Glenn, if Dr. Ford says she's not going to testify until the FBI investigates, the president says that's up to the FBI, but it really is up to him. Unless the president of the United States reopens this case, the FBI is not going to do what she is demanding.
Unfortunately, that may be where we end up at the end of the day. I will say, Andrea, what I was struck by is when I saw Dr. Ford, or through her attorney, say that I want the FBI to investigate this. Can I tell you, as a career prosecutor, when I had somebody who was lying, somebody who was conniving, or a wrongdoer, I don't know that I've ever heard them say, I demand that the FBI or any law enforcement agency look into my background and look into this incident. I'll tell you, liars don't often make that demand.
Yeah, fair point. Glenn Kirshner, thank you so much. Chuck Rosenberg, thank you both.